Hello, we are here at long last. I want to jump into it because this is going to be an especially eventful chapter. However, I also want to uh, explain why this chapter stream was so late. I think anyone who would want to know that knows. You know what I mean? Um, but I should explain it anyway, just because that's good practice. So basically, um, normally I wait about a week before streaming. Um, and within that week, I got quite sick. I don't know why. It was annoying. Um, and then right after I got well enough that I would have been able to stream, I started what I joke is my second job. Let me link the chapter the stream real quick. Let's see here. What did I just say? Did I say something about Twitch? Because I was reading someone asked if I streamed on Twitch on Discord. Um, Let me link this here. It's about anyone who's going to want to see it. Okay, and then we go to MangaDex, pull up the chapter. Oh, we don't go to MangaDex. We go to wherever we read, where we read this now. I don't remember if I'm gonna need the link from Ray's, I think. I don't remember where we get them now. Well, prep I should have done. I kind of forgot to do that. So, like I said, I started what I joke is my second job, which is this. Death Stranding 2. It came out right when I got better, and I knew I was like, there's no chance I'm streaming, you know, while I'm playing this. Because for several days, it literally kind of was my second job. I was averaging about 8 hours a day. Right now, I have 81, 82 hours on the game, and it came out the 26th. So let's see, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. That's just 5 days. Plus 7, that's 12 days. So that's pretty close to still probably maybe averaging 8 hours, actually. I can't do the math on that, but I think so. So that's kind of what I've been doing. But I said, okay, there's going to be a new chapter coming out pretty soon. Early next week, I believe Monday, which I'm going to be off. So I always like that when I am off work on release day. Though I am often napping when the chapters finish. And I said, okay, well, I have to do chapter 31. I can't. I've never skipped a chapter, and I never would. I don't think. I can be late, but I don't think I would ever skip a chapter. I've streamed in some form since chapter 1. The streams have changed a lot in terms of format, in terms of just the quality of the presentation. I think the first couple streams did not include the read-throughs, which I do, and I like doing. But I believe I have on my YouTube playlist, which I should update. I haven't updated it, I don't think. There are videos for every ZATCH Bell 2 chapter, which I really should promote on Reddit or something like that. Okay, so I just got sent the links. Let me see what would be like the best, which one is the best one. That would make the most sense to read on here. Do a little zoomies. So I gotta change the zoom so it makes sense. Yeah, that's not great. What does this look like? That's good if I do that. to use my Chrome zoom adjuster. Which is very useful because the innate Chrome adjuster does not always adjust zoom the way you want it to. But if there's an extension I use called, what's it called? Custom page zoom. That usually, if it doesn't work the way you think, the custom page zoom will work the way that you want. Okay, so I think we got started. I usually don't show the chapter on screen. So anyone who would like to follow along, please do so. Also, anyone who might be watching for the first time, this is not a live reaction. These are the second time I read these. I like to be unspoiled and have a quote-unquote pure experience, which to me is not reading it on stream, but I like to go through them with everyone because it's nice to refresh, and it's just fun. Oh, why did that save? Okay. Yeah, any ZATCH Bell books I had in my possession, I made sure to get for that thumbnail, which of course is kind of me, I guess, studying up is the idea. That was a one-try picture, which I thought came out pretty well. I feel like maybe the head scratch doesn't really read as a head scratch, but that's just me being nitpicky. I think it's a good thumbo. Oh, I didn't save the zoom. That's okay. Hold on. There we go. Okay. So I think we can get started. So, following on from the last chapter, which ended quite suddenly, not on a cliffhanger, just kind of on a gag, we have the gang, the family band, as I've started referring to them, trudging through the Momodo world. So we have in front Barry, behind him ZATCH, behind them Ponygon carrying Dot, his sister, Kafka, L, and then behind them was her name Chuba, carrying Kyo and Momon. They haven't had blankets on them because it's cold. Then we see them later on, and it's not cold. And Ponygon's a little happier. They're going through the wilderness. They come upon a house in this little quaint little village. It looks like a village from Attack on Titan. Why don't we rest here for a while? Sure. The enemy's power feels pretty faint here. We might even find some food if we look hard enough. And they do find some food. They're all chowing down. Chuba and Ponygon are eating out of like big buckets of stuff. Chuba's eating like potatoes. Ponygon is eating, of course, like hay or grass. Kyo is chatting with Barry. They're talking about something. I see. It sounds like a lot went down while I was away from the Dragon Fort. Yes, we know that he was at the Dragon Fort. He was away on like reconnaissance or something, and then we saw that he was interrogating a card who Belial then killed before he could reveal any information. Quite a nice feast they have in front of them. Raikou always seems to like drawing a lot of food. But what were you doing in the Elio stronghold, Barry? Just a bit of enemy surveillance. I've been scoping out the urban areas around the Dragon Fort. Can't just stand by and do nothing. It helps to have a better idea of what we're up against. Also, it gives me the chance to round up any surviving demons I find along the way. And if I run into any enemies I can handle, I take them down and retrieve the spell bottles. Right, I had a question about that. Is there any way we could dump out the spells inside the bottles and return them to their original owners directly? FAQ question number 1 here. We only have so many books and mummies to work with. It'd be ideal if we could build up our forces with demons who don't even need the books or a human to use them. Because in the Momodo world, as we know, Momodo should be able to use their spells without the books. No, I'm pretty sure they can't be restored that way. Actually, it might work if we use the right kind of magic. But it's not a good idea to return the spells directly to the demon. How come? Well, let's say we tried it, and then the demon would be able to use their spells again all on their own. And then let's say we went to the enemy's fortress and tried to fight them that way. If we did that, this giant dragon called Vesmeratio would show up and just steal all of our spells again. Vesmeratio. We have seen an image of Vesmeratio before. Here we see him a little bit more clear. He looks a bit like Bao, but maybe a little more terrifying, conventionally terrifying. He has gills, he has a bunch of eyes, and he has at least 3 normal mouths, and then these 2 little mouth offshoots on the sides. When we first saw him, which was a sort of flashback page where he was in the process of stealing all the spells, I said that I think he is inspired by Pennywise when he opens his mouth freakishly wide and has all these fangs and shows the deadlights. Which, if I recall, I think Vesmeratio does have lights coming in out of his mouth when he's stealing all the spells. So that was my my idea there. Zatch Gamer says definitely seems like a horrific take on a lamprey. Yeah, it could definitely be that as well. I learned its name from my father. It's a dragon that can pull the spells right out of us demons. Way before I was born, there was a time when it attacked the demon world. Back then, they somehow managed to get all the spell bottles back from the enemy. And then they developed magic that could restore the spells back to normal for the demons to use. But when they all went to challenge the enemy, I heard the dragon just stole their spells again. Okay, huge, quite small panel here of this fight in the past. So I believe we have heard that the cards attacked previously. I don't remember. I think the prep that was done in Egypt may have been done more than 1,000 years ago. So it's unclear exactly when this took place, but there is a figure that pretty clearly seems to be a descendant of ZATCH, possibly ZATCH's own father. Along with that, we have a demon that looks like Demaruto, which would make sense if this was ZATCH's father, because he was another participant in the battle. I would say this, I don't know if this is ZATCH's father, because then we see a Momoto that seems pretty clearly to be an ancestor, right, of Victorine. He's an X with hands. Pretty cool. I think this was a design that was submitted by someone for a fan Momoto contest. Whether it was or wasn't, it's a pretty makes sense as an idea for, well, we want an ancestor to Victorine. Well, he's obviously going to be another letter. And then we have what appears to be a female Momoto who's leaning down, a large kind of Amazon. Hard to tell. It's interesting that she's highlighted here, but she's the only one here that's highlighted where we can't really see that she's like a relative of any character that we know. And we do see Vesmeratio here stealing all the spells back with the light in his mouth, and then all the other light balls, which are resembling the Pennywise thing as well, that are the spells going into his mouth there. Zatch Gamer says, I do think that's Dawan because it would make sense if Gash heard the story firsthand and his father was at the head of the charge. Yeah, it would, which is why it's like a little confusing. I don't really understand it. But still very cool to see a little Zatch Bell history here. But not even this Vesmeratio creature can steal spells from inside the books, right? You knew, exactly. You might want to know that there are two... Oh, this is who's saying this? Barry's saying this. Yeah. You might want to know that there are 2 different types of spell vials. There's a refined version that only they can wield. So I don't know if you've seen that yet. And the unrefined version that we can use. But you only get so many shots. Unless, of course, it's put into the spellbook. And also, spells aren't as strong when they're in the bottles. Yeah, that's the impression I got. Once again, getting a lot of questions answered. And also, we are getting a nice sort of reason of this is why the partners and the books are necessary for this battle. It is a protection against the enemy's greatest weapon, Vesmeratio. So there is once again a reason, in the first series, the reason was so the Momoto could learn from humans, from different people, so they could have adventures around the world, so they could grow. That was the premise of the Momoto battle, so they could become better through this collaboration. Here, we don't have that setup anymore. So it's cool that there's still a different reason for the books and the partners to be needed. Later, hey, I found something really useful. So this town is really messed up, really destroyed by the enemy. Boy, am I glad to see this. It's a little busted, but I'm sure we can fix it right up. We see Kyo and Barry fixing it. They hook it up to Ponygon. Hope no one minds if we borrow these. ZATCH considerate as ever. Everyone's getting in the car. Barry sees probably ZATCH's book and just looking at it. Let's go, Umagon. Go shoot a rook. So imagine, go shoot a rook, Umagon, pulling a carrot. That thing's going at top speed. Umagon probably can't go too fast. Well, he's having that. The carrot would probably fall apart. Dutch Spell Gamer says, we usually only ever see refined spell vials. The unrefined ones are what Ziggy used at the start and Conchome's Poruk. Is that true? How do they look different? Interesting. Thankfully, Hanagebu hinted at that when he saw Conchome using Poruk. I'll have to go back and take a look at that. Barry's looking around. He decides to talk. So, that other guy, how's he been lately? Oh, you mean Gustav, right? The owner of Barry's book. Oh, right. Gustav. He was there, too. How's he doing? He sure doesn't make this easy. Kyo is sensing the, you might say, tsundere energy from Barry. He doesn't want to admit that, of course, he fully remembers Gustav. And one might say even misses Gustav. Of course, he would not want to admit that. I saw his name in Dr. Riddle's list, so it's pretty safe to say he's doing all right. Another thing, that book there. Do you have to meet any kind of special criteria to be able to use one? Yeah. FAQ question number 2. Or number 3, depending on how you're counting. Based on what we've seen so far, there are 2 working methods. The first is when the demon is in the form of a soul. This is what we've seen, mostly seen so far. The demon's soul, a white book, a mummy, the demon's spell bottle, and the demon's book owner. When all 5 of these conditions are met, the book gains color and the demon is revived. So that's a lot of conditions. Okay? Unfortunately, I don't think they look any different. They're just the spell vials you can only use once. The briefcase spell vials have unlimited uses. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't have really clocked that the ones early in the series were the unrefined versions. The other method is for when the demon is still alive. A white book with a book owner and the demon's physical form. Together, these are enough to give the book its color. This happened with Conchome. But in this scenario, that power is only awakened when the demon in question unlocks a new spell. So, it's an interesting thing to specify. At least that was the case for Conchome, he says. Because, yeah, I mean, we like, presumably, just by how writing a shonen arc would go, of course they're always going to be unlocking a new spell when they get their spell powers back. Of course they are. They're in a fight. They're in a battle. It's unlikely that they're just going to be using the same spells again. Except in the case of Brago, you know, when... Well, I mean, I guess that's a good question to compare. Has there ever been a dead Moto revived who got a new spell? Yeah, because Ponygon got a new spell that we're about to see when he was revived from being dead. Was there anyone else? Tia did not. Tia wasn't dead. Tia survived. We know Brago didn't. ZATCH didn't immediately, right? Or was the new spell there from the time it was revived? I don't know. It just makes sense that, yeah, they generally always be unlocking new spells just because that's the most interesting way to do it. I don't know. To me, it's not that confusing, Zaspel Gamer. It just kind of seems like... I feel like they can maybe do it without gaining a new spell, but even if they do gain a new spell, it doesn't make much of a difference to me. I don't know. So you're saying I can give this book color if I develop a new spell too? Yes, I'm sure of it. So, I mean, I guess there you go. So this is... They think that potentially Momon, which, like, and it's like, well, why didn't Momon unlock a new spell? You see how much he was, like, going through? You know, maybe I guess he was kind of down and out by the time that El got there, so he was too weak to unlock a new spell there. Hopefully we'll see him do that soon. But yeah, I guess this is it. Like, okay, so, you know, Momon currently can't use spells because he has not unlocked a new one yet. Once he does, his book will gain color. He'll have access to, I guess, just that spell for now, I suppose. There's also the method that worked for Tio, where you can pour living demon spells from their bottle into the spellbook and color it that way. But is that not what happened with Conchime? They got Paruk back from the enemies, right? Isn't that not the same kind of the same thing that happened with Conchime, except Tio didn't unlock a new spell? Well, they say, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I don't know. So if Gustav had been there, the book would have been colored, and I'd have been able to use my spells. That sound about right? I'd say there's a very good chance of that. Then why didn't you bring Gustav with you? Like you can see the kind of detail on his face, his weird face texture there. Well, I mean, we haven't really seen him yet, but who said I wanted to see him? It's just Gustav wasn't among any of the targeted book owners, so we thought targeted by the enemies in the top 10. With him around, I could Kazunis, so it'd be better for all of us, got it? Or Giganozonis, or Diogo Zinustan, or some new Zonis we've never seen before. And over there, you'll see the 10,000 years of Demon World history in the Hekamokos ruins. Oh, wow, what a magnificent view. Yup, it doesn't get any better than this. They don't want to deal with this this weird anger right now. They're looking at these silly looking ruins. I saw another YouTuber. It was kind of cool, actually. I was able to watch a Brazilian YouTuber talk quite at length about this chapter through YouTube automated dubbing. It was really cool to be. I watched like that whole video. YouTube just dubbed that just through that. I don't know, just something built in that automated that. I was able to watch him talk about it. Mostly really good. I really enjoyed doing that. There are not many other people on YouTube who talk at the same length I do about the chapters in English. And the funny thing was he did take this quite seriously, which I found funny. This is a joke. I don't know if we're ever going to learn about Hekamokos here. You know, look, it's interesting that these battles have been going on apparently for at least 10,000 years, but it's mostly a joke. Let me catch up in the chat here. Okay, Paruk was used up. So they got the vial, but then they could only use it once. Okay. So get Gustav over here as fast as possible. There's not a damn second to waste. Gash, what's the story behind those ruins? They were made to honor Hekamokos, our king from 10,000 years ago. Meanwhile, later. So we don't know what happened there, but nice ruins over there. They're quite nice, aren't they? Back at the Dragon Fort, it was like a large coral thing we've seen before. Everyone is pretty amazed. The Kibamoto are crying at how many demons are here. Demons. Look at them all. I can't believe so many are still alive. Momon, Umagon, Tio. What I got here? I'm in trouble. I haven't used them in a bit. Mirror, mirror, me. Put him on the wrong hand. Wow, sister Sunbeam-san, you're here too. So Tio has not changed clothes yet. I don't think this will be her main appearance for the series. We have the Omoto kids linking up with what looks like members of their own species. Similarly, Chuba's talking with some other bird Omoto. Well done on your safe return, Gash, Momon, Umagon, and Barry. Whole gang's there in front of Acheron again. Let's see here. The idea that Hekamokos might have relation to Belial is horrifying, LOL. One of the Astral Makai members said that, and I think there's a half-decent chance of that. Look, if Raikou decided to turn Hekamokos into a serious thing, I would be very surprised. It's not impossible. I would be very surprised. It's such a relief to see you and the others made it out okay, Acheron. So what should our next move be? I would like for you to cross over to the human world with Gash and the others. We could use your help with searching for the remaining book wielders. And take a small reprieve while you're at it. Huh? You've already drawn up a map that features the locations of our stolen spells. Quite a detailed map. Our staff officers are overjoyed by this development. Staff officers, that, of course, we don't get to see. We're getting a lot this chapter, okay? We can't get everything. I can't be picky. As we speak, they're discussing ways it can be used to plan out a new strategy moving forward. Once they've fleshed out the details, there will be a group in the demon world that will play an active role. So until that time comes, I want that party to rest while they have the opportunity. So he's essentially, I believe, talking about kind of storming the gates, maybe, of the enemy, you know? Going after the spell vials and then storming the gates. Storming the gates of the small bases first. And that goes double for you, Tio. Buff Tio here. She picked this pose just to show her muzzle. There aren't any more grave injuries in need of medical attention. And it is to my understanding that Megumi is expected back in the human world as well. I'm so sorry for all this, Megumi. You've been away for almost a whole month. Oh, you don't have to apologize. It's fine. Does your family and workplace know you're okay? Yup, of course. FAQ question number 4 or 5, which is like, do we really need this answered too? Apparently, yes. The people want to know. When Gashi Kiyomaru went back to the human world, I had Kiyomaru show everyone a video message of me that we recorded on his phone. And I explained in it that I'm just volunteering in Tio's hometown right now. People, know who Tio was? Yeah, remember that kid I used to hang out with? 13 years ago. So does having a spellbook really let you travel freely between the demon world and the human world? Yeah, but there are a few restrictions. FAQ question number 6. Kiyomaru, I think we should explain how that works to Momon and everybody else. I agree. This is the point of the chapter I was like, what is happening? I was like, what's going on? Who talked to Raikou? This was after another break because Raikou was sick, or yes, it was. And I was like, who got to him? What assistant was enough is enough during that time? Did his mom was it his mom or something? Was his mom hey, listen, I got some issues with how much you're explaining or not explaining here, because it's just kind of comparatively the amount of information we're getting in this chapter is nuts. It's more than twice as much as any other chapter. You see, a few days after we got to the Dragon Fort, the spellbook sent us a message. Look, Gash, for you to have come this far, you have my praise. Current Demon World King and the owner of this book. In my opinion, if this was portrayed in animation, and I don't recall what because we got some spellbook messages in the first anime, probably. I don't recall what they were like. I don't think the book is really talking so much. I think this is sort of either they're just reading it because they can just read the words, or the words are sort of being transmitted into their brains, kind of. I wouldn't say there's a voice that they hear, but obviously I have to read it that way. I'll make this brief in regard to your ability to cross the threshold between both worlds as needed. As of now, provided your wills are resolute, you will be able to travel to any location in the other world that your heart desires. So I don't know if, I think by the other world they're talking, because, Kyo says it. They're talking about the human world. So they can go back to the human world anywhere, I think is what they're saying. Or I don't know if maybe they're just talking about both worlds. We never got a spellbook message in the anime. Wow, okay, interesting. Toei went out of the way to make sure all of them were cut. So maybe Toei kind of couldn't figure it out, because maybe they kind of thought the same thing as me, where, it doesn't have a voice. So maybe they thought it was difficult to portray. However, there are rules. Once you've been transported, you cannot do so again for 48 hours, which a lot can happen in 48 hours. I think this rule, this limit, will come up as a problem sooner or later. If fortune does not favor you, there are times when even 48 hours will not be a sufficient waiting period. We'll see. ZATCH Gamer says, I think it was to give them room to keep putting in filler Remoto without contradicting the spellbook messages announcing how many were left. Right, that does make sense. Do not rely too heavily on this newfound power. Yeah, Raikou, don't rely too heavily on it. He's talking to himself. It is, especially this line here. It is essential that you carve out your own path. Don't be lazy. Bonk, falls on the ground. That last part of the message sounded a little ominous, don't you think? Yeah, I think it's just the book's way of saying that we'll eventually need to fend for ourselves someday. Maybe the book won't be able to help them finish this. Tio, you should go to the human world and get some well-deserved rest. They should go to Vegas. The next time there's trouble here in the demon world, we'll be in good hands with Conchime and Coral Q. That's not a comforting thought. Why is Coral Q back in the fold? Make sure you bring Gustav back this time. Okay, we get the idea. Oh, Tio, when you get to the human world, do you think you could stop by Sherry and Brago's place? What? You guys are 5 Brago too? Just tell me where they are and you can leave the rest to me. They both got hurt when they battled the enemy. Brago should heal pretty fast on his own, but Sherry's going to need your help. I read you loud and clear. It's nothing a Syphogio can't fix. God, I would so love to hear Melissa Fahn reading these lines as Tia in a dub. Hopefully we'll get that one day. Ah, yes. Kiyamaro, I need you to track down a certain human for me. She's from Brazil, and her name is Luna Oliveira. Luna Oliveira? I don't know her. Is she one of the book owners? Indeed. She is a book wielder of a demon named Jill Nose. Jill Nose? Oh yeah, I remember. We don't. But this is really cool. Really cool opportunity to introduce an unseen part of the first series, basically. The previous demon battle. Someone you know, Gash? No, that was a demon who fought in the battle to decide the king. We just never ran into those two at the time. But Jillnose does have a power that I'm sure would be great to have in this fight. So that's very interesting. We have a demon power, whether this is from spells or whether this is an innate demon ability like Gorm's, that is apparently very useful, yet not something we saw in the first series at all, seemingly. We saw quite a few of those powers, Zophis, Gorm. There were more, right? There's a couple more with innate powers. Momon, for instance, has his kind of radar. So this is one that is maybe completely new. I have no idea what that would be, honestly. Yes, there would be no doubt. If you manage to get a hold of Luna, we'll be in very good shape. Got it. We'll get to looking right away. And the same goes for Reen, too. Very well. Acheron's partner, Reen Vise. France, in the human world. I think maybe back at Sherry's house. Hi, everyone. I'm sorry for worrying you, but please know that I'm doing just fine. And to all of my wonderful fans out there, we're pleased to announce the date for the upcoming apology concert that was previously canceled. So that's Megumi's message, I think, after she's coming back. This is not the message she recorded with Kyo. I think this is when she just recorded. And there's comments scrolling along the side, saying everyone's excited. Just trying to zoom in. Look at the avatars. Young miss, our guests have arrived. Please show them in. Sherry! So now Tio has changed clothes, but I still don't think this will be her default outfit for this series. Oh yeah, right. Well, yeah, where do they mention, yeah, so yes, the Brazil factor. We'll discuss that. There's a lot of Brazilian Zatch Bell fans, as there are pretty much a lot of Brazilian fans of anything. Brazil is a country with a lot of people in it, so it makes sense that it's heavily represented online. In almost any online community, if it's big enough, you will find quite a lot of people from Brazil in there, so much so that it's sort of become a meme that celebrities are often asked to come visit, and you can look up "Come to Brazil." It's pretty much become a meme, which is, I think nothing derogatory towards those people. If most celebrities were Brazilian, then American people would be asking them to come to America. But it is for us who are pretty deep in this ZATCH fandom, we know that there's quite a lot of Brazilian fans. We just talked about the guy that I was watching on YouTube. So it's pretty awesome for them that there is now seemingly going to be a Brazil arc in ZATCH Bell. And yes, we did have a Brazilian partner before, Picario and his partner. I don't remember if that fight with Brago and Sherry took place in Brazil, but even so, we didn't really see any of it. It was just a forest. Tio, is that you? You look great. All right, here we go. Saifojo! Mama! Of course, these confusion of Saifojo and people who are unfamiliar with it see it. It just looks like they're getting stabbed. And Sherry's kids are horrified, but it heals her injuries instantly. Thanks, Tio. I feel much better now. Now the kids are pretty happy. Oni-chans! Wow. Megumi's like holding the book up. She's like self-satisfied. So now they're outside, kind of having a little picnic. Tia's making good friends with Sherry's daughter. It's Brago. Come on, let's go see. Wait for me. Tia's smiling. Brago. I'm going to admit, I have no idea what he's doing. I have no idea. He's doing something. He's like spinning his torso. I don't know. What it almost looks like to me is he's doing like an extreme version of kids in my like elementary middle school would do this thing where they would like flick their hands in a certain way where it would like make a weird noise. It looks like he's doing like the extreme version of that, and it's like creating like an energy wave. I don't know. That's almost what it looks like to me. There's like bits of grass flying around, and clearly he's generating something. I don't know if he's just like using the gravity power to like get is like his version of like squeezing a stress ball or something. I really don't know. No idea what he's doing here. What? Did Brago really beat your cheating husband to a pulp? The car. He only smashed the car. I just left it alone and hoped that it would run its course, but it got to the point where even my own kids knew what was going on. Nikolai even thought that we'd lose the house if we didn't have Claude's money to fall back on. And that's not true, is it? Of course not. The Belmont family was able to survive the French Revolution thanks to our political and economical prowess, as well as the trust we've earned from the people. The land and property that my family owns is managed by a foundation. We use the profits of that foundation to maintain the household, but also to provide educational, medical, and financial support to the community as a whole. So yeah, Sherry's kind of she's the rich one. Brago's flicking his wrist. See, I'm right. I mean, and obviously, just no offense, but we both know this at the same level. You know as well as I do what he's doing. We both don't really know, but I'm glad to see that you agree. But in that case, you should confront him about it and kick him to the curb. She's right. I would never let that slide. How do I put this? Claude wasn't always this way. He was actually a good husband at first, and I know that he loved me with all his heart. Raikou kind of trying to be real again. But my family's ideals are very outdated. Presumably, these might be what we're seeing right now, portraits of all the previous members of the family. I was raised to be the perfect role model of courtesy, culture, and social etiquette. Imposing such a demanding lifestyle on an everyday person like Claude must have taken its toll on him. And I can be pretty strict about certain things myself. So we see Claude meeting with what looks like maybe like a cardinal of the Vatican or something like that. That's some nice party. Over time, I think it got to be a bit too much for him. So we gradually started to resent that lifestyle and tried to find ways to cope however he could. So this is also, we're getting like a really nice kind of little conversation. It's going a little deeper into Sherry and Claude. We're also just getting Sherry, Tia, and Megumi hanging out, which I don't know if this was like really something we ever saw in the original series. Was just them hanging out. We didn't see much of anyone hanging out, which isn't really a problem. It's just not what Raikou likes to focus on. But I know there are a lot of fans who do like seeing stuff like this a lot, so this is another little bonus for them that was kind of unexpected. So I try to take it all in stride, like watching a child who's struggling with his responsibilities, which she did have to watch as well in her own kids. So she's kind of blaming herself and the life that she and Claude have to live a little bit, which is bizarre and maybe not satisfying for readers either. But, once again, I think Raikou tries to be realistic about certain things. That perhaps, no man that Sherry would have married would have taken to that life too well. Tio staring at Sherry. No, that's not it. You could kill him any time you want. You're just waiting for the right moment to strike. You're still trying to decide if you want a medium or well done, aren't you? Sherry kind of spits out her tea. You got me, Tio. She's kind of looking to the side. We've kind of seen this pose before, I think. Was it on the back of Volume 4 or something? Was she like playing chess with Brago? I don't remember where we saw it, but her with the tea. She's spilling the tea kind of a little bit here, literally. And then they all have a good laugh about it. So we don't really know how serious Sherry is. But, I think it's sort of just showing that, Sherry kind of got her groove back a little bit, you know what I mean? And now she kind of holds the reins and she's, be the master of her own fate, in a way. The back cover, volume 15 of the original series, the most recent re-releases. Yeah. Thank you. Meanwhile, in Africa, Mama, Papa, you're the worst. How could you leave us for so long? So this is when I was like cheering. These are clearly Sunbeam and Elle's kids. So after knowing them for a couple chapters, we learn that yes, indeed, they are married. They do have 2 kids. That look quite a bit like their parents. I'm really sorry. Thank you for looking after them, Zanelli-san. But Rion, Lilia, guess what? We bought some wonderful friends for you two. Those friends made you and Papa leave us behind, and now you let them into our house, too? I hate them. I don't want to see them, and nothing you say will make me change my... Momon comes out. Here's Momon! I have to read that like here's Johnny. From The Shining. The face he's making definitely reminds me of that. Groovy! And the kid is seems to think this is, Momon is quite funny. And he says groovy, just like his dad. Rion, don't laugh at other people's faces. Momon here, which Momon doesn't seem to mind. but, hee hee hee. Shupok! My jaw dropped right here. Of all the things in the chapter, I think this is maybe the biggest. Following on from Ponygon being able to talk, he now has a human form like his parents. It is apparently from a spell, and it comes complete with clothes. He has a bipedal form. Merry, yeah. Still seems like he does not prefer to talk. We don't see him talking in this chapter. But he's fine with being bipedal, and I guess he'll be able to get along in the human world pretty well. But yeah, I mean, just this out of nowhere was so crazy to see. Especially like going from when Polygon was revived, and we're like, I guess he doesn't know how to talk. And then, like, where we are now is like, whoa. Whiplash. Higher, Mr. Horsey, higher. Me. Yeah. Momon here. Okay, I get it. Get out of my face. Momon is like he's like shaking. He's like having some sort of episode. What this makes me think of, which honestly, knowing Raikou, this could be like a direct lift or even subconscious inspiration, is Billy Madison. One of the best Adam Sandler comedies, maybe the best Adam Sandler comedy. There's a scene where, because the plot of Billy Madison is that he's going through all 12 grades of school, 2 weeks for each grade, so he can prove himself to his father, because he's like a spoiled, dumb, rich kid who's going to inherit the company. And once he gets through like first or second grade and he's in high school, he goes into high school and he starts getting bullied just like he was. No, because he didn't get bullied the first time through high school. I'm not going to explain the whole plot of Billy Madison to you. He goes through high school, he starts getting bullied, then he visits the second or third grade class to see, his friends that he made there. And one of the kids is like, gee, I sure wish I could go to high school. And Adam Sandler grabs his cheeks and he's like, don't you say that. It's very, very funny. If you've never seen Billy Madison, would highly recommend that movie. And this really reminded me of that. I have no idea if Raiko actually took inspiration from it, but just the way that Momon, who seemed to be having fun before, almost seems like he's now stuck, like doing like it like overtook him, like doing like this weird thing. Oh, thank goodness. It looks like they're going to get along just fine. He's the kid's like trying to get him one off. One's like cramping him. Very strange. Yeah. Meanwhile, in Brazil, we're here. They came to Brazil, ladies and gentlemen. Rio de Janeiro. We have Christ the Redeemer here. We have, the beautiful mountains of Rio. Taxi or car rental? Inu Kimaru, it's coming down pretty hard now. Looks like I'll have to buy us an umbrella, too. So I don't know if they just teleported here from the Demon World. I guess they did, because Kyo's backpack... I don't know, I can't tell if it's like a Demon World backpack or not. So they have a whole, like, data sheet of on Luna and maybe that Momoto and their location, and it kind of looks like Momoto writing. Oh, sorry, that's not Kyo. This is another person who has this data sheet. Yay, it's raining. I love that it rains in this world. Yeah, Ellerby. So I'm not going to do this. I have no idea what this sounds like. This is super fun. Snapping. Tell you snapping along with it. And you and me, we get to drink it in for all it's worth. It feels so good to be alive. The other person is spinning. So they are he's kind of walking around, singing along. You see this woman wheeling this old lady in a wheelchair. Luna Oliveira. That's the woman we are looking for. She seems pretty tall. Her name's Cuffy. We're here to see Jill Knows. And that's where we leave the crazy, action-packed, if action is information, chapter 31. We see Cuffy, this new card, presumably, who's sort of dressed like a maestro. He has big kind of Beethoven hair. Wonder if his power will be music related, like Yapopo. And we can't tell if he is. Presumably, he might be the sorcerer, because the other person, which it looks female, is carrying the suitcase, but we don't know. We don't know who's the card and who's the sorcerer. So Luna is in danger. Kyo and ZATCH have not made it to her yet. We have no idea if Jill Knows is around. So we end on kind of another cliffhanger, and the next chapter comes out very soon. And yes, it did look like Jill Knows was kind of next to her in that info sheet that he had there. Let's take a look at the character name page. Yeah, Hekamokos could be a lot. Luna Oliveira makes a lot of sense, of course. And yeah, Jill knows there was some confusion about... And then, yeah, Leon or Rion, you don't really know exactly what that's going to be. I think Leon would make a lot of sense for a kid of Sunbeam. But you guys saw that Rion is a South African name, so who really knows? Definitely makes sense. We have a couple more. Yeah, Zaneru, or Zaneri. So yeah, it would be Zanelli, which kind of sounds African. I have no idea if that's like an actual African name or if that's kind of something they made up. Yeah, Cuffy, who knows if that's what that might be inspired by. We don't know. So there you go. We actually have some comments. That's kind of neat. I almost want to go through these. Someone deleted their comment was hidden. It was about Tia. Someone commented something weird about Tia, and the comment was hidden. I'm kind of going to go through these comments. Maybe not on the stream, though. Yeah. I mean, that's the Japanese thing of where names can kind of have multiple meanings, but you have to pick one when you translate to English, which sometimes the authors themselves cannot do. Well, you know what that comment was? Okay, maybe tell me, or I don't know if you can maybe DM me on Discord if it was too weird. But yeah, sometimes the authors have trouble picking the English names for their own characters, because they're not too experienced maybe with English, and they can't always decide at the first shot what the name should be. Crap! I closed the chat. Hold on a minute. Let me open that. Docs chat. Here it is. The comment was something along the lines of, "Why did they do my girl like this? Tia became the Rock." And that's kind of a funny comment to delete. Like, you're allowed to kind of, disagree with that. Obviously, most fans are very satisfied with it. I wouldn't delete the comment just because someone didn't like it. I think it's a little silly. So that'll do it for the chapter. We already covered a lot. Where I don't know how far we're in. We're 51 minutes in now, but I think we should discuss whatever can be discussed. So let me pull up the chapter again. I accidentally closed it. So what do we not get to? I mean, there is so much covered in this chapter. It is kind of difficult to hold it all. Vera's Matteo we discussed. I think there's going to be a lot more to learn about that. That previous battle was incredibly interesting. Hopefully we'll see more on that, but I don't know if we will. And yes, I didn't mention, ZATCH Gamer mentioned this, the headquarters does look exactly the same. So it does seem to be the same invading force that came here previously. And if that is Dawan, we never got a look at young Dawan ever before, I don't think. So it's pretty neat to see that. He does look like a buff ZATCH. We are surely going to see Gustav again. We have yet to really see Sherry collaborate with Brago fully either. So I think, they're both of these duos are going to be absolutely insane once they actually get to have their spell books and cast spells. We saw, a little bit with Braga, but I feel like they weren't really fully allowed to collaborate there. Definitely be glad to be seeing more Tia. I'm looking forward to her potentially having more to do soon. She's not in Brazil, and I kind of don't know if Sherry's going to get attacked again, but I think we are going to see her in another fight, maybe after this coming arc, and I'm definitely looking forward to that. The books explaining stuff was pretty nice, especially for me. I really like that because that was something I was kind of concerned about. Was I don't want them in the demon world too much at this point. I'm fine with at some point if they go to the demon world and they're just there for the rest of this series. I just don't really want that to be now. And I was kind of afraid when they first teleported there with Tia. I was like, are they just gonna be in the demon world for the rest of this? That makes it seem a little too easy if they're already there kind of rallying troops, which things are getting easier, but they're still kind of on their way, which I like. Stashable Gamer says, I'm definitely anticipating a big climactic struggle once we're done assembling the army, very much like how it went down in Animal Land. Yes, I very much agree. I think I've probably said it on the stream before. I do think the finale to this, the final arc of this series is going to be really huge. It's going to be bigger than anything we've seen before. There will probably be a sort of large-scale army-type battle with a lot of crazy two-page spreads. And one thing I keep saying is that, I think that essentially the series is going to keep seeming pretty formulaic. I do think we're going to start getting more team fights. The arcs are going to slowly kind of start to change into something a little different, that feels a little different as we learn more. But I do think that there will be a sort of inflection point where suddenly it's like, oh, we're kind of like wrapping up now all of a sudden. Like it's this series is like, you know, now going into its final phase, and it's not going to seem like it's going into its final phase until it is. You know, so like Zatch Bell 2 I think is going to seem like a series where we're still in kind of the beginning and until it seems like we're getting to the end. It's not going to feel like there's really a middle segment is my idea. Like that's the thing. Like I don't think, for instance, we're not going to get a Millennium Mamoto arc, you know what I mean? Where we can say like, okay, we're past the introductory stuff, we're past gathering everyone together, but we're not at the final fight yet at the enemy headquarters. No, I think it's going to be we're gathering everyone together, and then the final fight at the enemy headquarters. That's what I think. Could be wrong. But I do like that we now have some rules and limitations for the traveling between the two worlds. So presumably for either world, you can travel once between both worlds, and then there's the waiting period, which is 48 plus hours. So that's good to remember. Because basically, whoever comes to the Mamoto world, or whoever comes from the Mamoto world to the human world, which I think, that's another good question is, do ZATCH and Kyo have to be present for everyone to go from the Mamoto world to the human world? Or did ZATCH and Kyo jump to Brazil, and then Tia and Megumi jump to France separately from them? It's kind of a good question. And, you know, so now they're both where they are in the human world. If ZATCH and Kyo need Tia, she's not going to really be able to get there. She'll have to take a plane. But we're going to be seeing Coral Q again, presumably at some point. He's in the squad now. Though I think the squad is going to get a lot bigger pretty quickly. We're still going at a pretty leisurely pace in terms of introducing Mamoto. We kind of had 3 introduced in this past arc, which is more than the, like, 1 we've been having every other arc. But Barry we kind of saw before, so you kind of say it was only 2. And that's not saying we're now going to get 3 each arc. We don't really know, but definitely possible that we could have some surprise guests show up in Brazil. Not out of the question at all. The Sherry stuff is just so interesting what Raiku's trying to do with her as a character, where, you know, like I said, what he explains with her does not really make her out to be better than she was. If anything, she sort of puts the blame on her, kind of perpetuating the pressure, you know, that was put upon her to be, you know, a Belmont in a way, that she did not, like, put an end to that. And, you know, I mean, I could see a possible future where she apologizes to her husband. I'm just saying, you know, you all might need to prepare for that. People would not like it. Oh, right. I gotta mention this. Before I mention this, Zatchable Gamer says, I think what will spur the tone shift from this formula will be when Belial finally gets one of those 27 books burned. That is a great question and something that will definitely be addressed in the future. Obviously, I think Raku wants to hold the answer to what would happen if that happened until it actually happens. What would happen if one of these books was burned? I think we will get to see it. There might be a sacrificial lamb at some point, you know? Don't get too used to whenever Rops. Imagine if it's Rops again. Imagine if it's Rops again. Oh my god. That would just be... I don't know if it would be worse if it was Rops or Kiddo. It's not going to be Kiddo, because Raiku's done enough. He's inflicted enough pain on fans of those two. Could be Rops, though. To be the sacrifice. So I gotta mention this. You know, when I was reading this section with Sherry, I was like, I could turn the page and Coco could be right there. Like, we could be getting Coco in this chapter. The only thing that can make this chapter more insane, this is before I saw Pony, Sunbeam and Elle's kids, and then Ponygon's human form. I thought we could be seeing Coco this chapter, but alas, she did not show. She still does not show. We keep returning to France. Everyone's like, "Where's Coco?" We don't get Coco, so we don't know if Raikou has a plan for her. We have no idea. I think Raikou does have a plan for her, because that's just one of the most interesting things from the first series. When you're making a sequel, you think about these things, and Raikou is, mostly, aside from kind of the specific case of Cheryl-related stuff, he's had a very good track record at sort of visiting the stuff from the first series that was interesting. So the idea of Tia becoming really strong and, maybe training under Wanrei, we don't know if she did that, but Raikou visited that, and he kind of, you could say he set that up in the first series, and he paid it off in this one. I think a big question coming out of the first series would be, how would Coco react to seeing Zophis again? How would she get on after that battle? How would she think about her time in the Momoto battle, though I think most of her memory of it was erased? What would happen if she learned the stuff she did during the first Momoto battle? What would happen if she had to team up with Zophis again in this battle? And I think Raikou is going to address all that stuff eventually. I think it's unfortunate that we kind of can't see her just kind of chilling with Sherry, because, we want to see Coco being happy, right? She didn't have a great time in the first series, so hopefully we'll get to see a little bit of that. But I do think in terms of the serious stuff involving her and Zophis, I do think we are eventually going to get to that. But not just yet, apparently. Coral Q might be the sacrifice. Yeah, it's possible. And yeah, if it happens to revive Moto, they might, they might die again. We don't really know. So yeah, aside from that, I mean, a lot of what we get told in this chapter is just really nice to know. It's very interesting to have the ZATCH Bell 2 FAQ chapter come up. I have no idea if this was something Raikou planned or if this was something that he kind of had a discussion with his team of, like, what do people want to know? It's maybe, I'll throw him a bone. But a lot of this chapter was clearly stuff that he was going to do anyway. Ponygon's human form, the Brazil stuff. And, there is an aspect to this that I like a lot of how quick we're getting around to places. I said I didn't want it to be too easy for them, and that's still true, but I like the changes of scenery that happen pretty frequently in this series. It's neat, ZATCH Bell 1 was, like, a bit of a globetrotting series, but, like, not much. Like, you got to see different locations in Japan for the first arc, and then you got to see, like, 2 or 3 locations around the world in the other arcs. But in this, we're really traveling to a lot of different places. And it seems like we're going to keep doing that. We're going to keep kind of going to different places every time, which is cool. I like that. Definitely makes this series seem bigger than the first one. So yeah, I don't know how much more there really is to discuss here. If anyone has anything to mention in the chat that I might have forgotten to address, let me know. As for what's going on with the ZATCH Bell franchise, which is kind of always how I like to wrap up these streams, there's been kind of a lot, certainly a lot of merchandise, as always. We had like 2 pop-ups running at like the same time. We had Brago, Sherry, and Wanrei Lien perfume, which sold out immediately, seemingly targeting shippers. I don't really know what else to say. I wouldn't necessarily say that Brago Sherry has been canonized. I wouldn't say that, but I would say that who else is going to buy Brago Sherry perfume with a little illustration of them on the front of it? There was a new Ponygon plush that came out that was very fuzzy. It was made by like a specific company that Raiku's team worked with. And then I think some more stuff was added to the Mochinoki website, the official store. So that's great. We had some unfortunate stuff where I think it was it Kitsune who is publishing the manga in, I want to say Spanish, right? Normo is doing it in Portuguese. And was Kitsune doing it in Spanish, and Kitsune has just kind of like disappeared or gone radio silent or something, and we don't know what's happening with them, which is really unfortunate. For people who want worldwide releases in other languages, one of the first ones that happens is, just kind of goes dark. And, if we're mad about that, presumably Raikou and his team are also mad about that. Now, I don't really think that this would make them, afraid of doing other licenses. I just think they'd maybe want to vet these places a little better or maybe change the contracts or something, was Kitsune the same one who was cribbing from Noel's scans? Just talk about just doing a bad job. Geez, if I was Raikou, I'd be pissed. We don't know if Raikou ever found out about that aspect of it. And I almost hope he didn't, because that's just freaking sad. That I would be mad if I was him and I found out about that. Raikou does not seem to like scans, and why should he? No offense to Raze, of course. We're doing this with the most respect we can, and now that I'm able to pay for the chapters every month, because Raze figured out a new way to do it, check out the ZATCH Gamer channel if you would like to see that. And yes, I would recommend that everyone who reads the series throw a couple dollars each month to buy the ebook and support Raikou, because I'm doing that from now on. And yeah, it does annoy me that Bergden Board would have to deal with this, and it may end up delaying future licenses, but I think future licenses could still easily happen. And I hope they will soon. I've said this a couple times in the past few streams that we're sort of unfortunately getting past the prime moment for there to be a new anime. The really prime moment for there to be an announcement or for it to start would, to me, have been before Brago came back. In terms of, getting the most hype, it doesn't matter, if this would be a ZATCH Belt 1 anime or a 2 anime. I saw recently people on Reddit tend to act like there could not be a ZATCH Belt 2 anime without an anime finishing ZATCH Belt 1. I don't believe that. I think an anime of 2 is less likely than a reboot of the first series that follows the manga, but I don't think it's impossible. I think they could easily start a comeback with the ZATCH Belt 2 anime if they wanted to. It's all up to what the studio wants and what Raikou wants. And, I think in terms of building hype and sustaining a fan base and getting people into the series, Brago is beloved, especially by Western fans. He's beloved by everybody, but especially, if you were 12 when ZATCH Bell, the anime, was airing on Toonami, and, you were watching that show, your favorite moto was probably Brago if you were a 12-year-old boy. So, I would have really liked it for either a new anime to be announced or for one to start, and then maybe a month or two after that's airing for Brago to come back in the ZATCH Bell 2 manga. Would have gotten a ton of people into that manga. Then they would have seen these other characters come back, and we'd be able to just continue building every month on these new characters coming back. The readership would get bigger and bigger. I'm planning this like it's a political campaign, but we're getting a bit past that. The characters that are going to be brought back are going to be kind of less and less exciting as it goes on, but things take time, and if we do get another anime, which I think is fairly likely, it's still going to be great, and it's still going to make the series, twice as big around the world than it is now. So I certainly won't be sad when that happens. When that's announced, I'm not going to be like, I wish it was a little earlier. No, when it's announced, I'm going to be perfectly happy. I'm saying this stuff now so I can get out of the way. When the original series, ZATCH Gamer says, got an anime, it was around the time of Wanrei and Leon's debut. So maybe that'll happen with this series. Yeah, Wanrei and Leon are definitely one of the bigger pairs that we have yet to see in this series. I think we'll probably be seeing them pretty soon, but we haven't yet. So that's going on. There was some pretty interesting stuff on Twitter recently where Raikou was calling out this Toei animation person by name and telling him to take down the Twitter for the mobile game Tawakizu Eternal Bonds, which did then get taken down. I can't say I know why Raikou considered this such a threat. It could be any number of reasons. It could just be he didn't want it operating anymore now that the game is over. He wanted focus on the other official ZATCH Bell accounts. It could be that the Tawakizu account, this is sort of the optimistic view. The Tawakizu account is @gash_Tawakizu. Maybe they want to start another account that starts with @gash and they don't want any distraction there. But we don't know. Either way, most of that was kind of not visible to us, but it was very funny to see those couple tweets where he was writing this guy by name from Toei. Raikou, he's fearless, we know that. We also saw video footage of him in the past couple months. He's been supporting a couple politicians, which is interesting. He's involved in that, which I think was the first time we've ever seen video of him speaking. I think there was maybe some footage of him just kind of walking out of a building or something when there were news reports on the original lawsuit. But I don't know if we've ever seen him talking before, so it was interesting to see that. And yes, we do know that, Raikou never was involved with Tawakizu. He seemed to go out of his way to not mention it at all. He kind of acted like it didn't exist. If you go through the past streams, you'll see me mentioning that a lot. I think up until it was nearly over, he did this weird thing where he followed them and then he tweeted at them, "I'm following you now," which once again is so weird and threatening. But yeah, Golden Memories was the game he was involved in, and we love Golden Memories. And I'm looking forward to whatever you do with Tawakizu's ZATCH Gamer, though I'm sure you have a lot that you're working on. But yeah, I don't know if we'll ever get another mobile game again. And maybe we shouldn't, because, if the fate of all mobile games is just to end service and be completely erased, that's very unfortunate. And in fact, there has been a movement that has been in a lot of discussion on the internet recently that has specifically been trying to make it so stuff like that does not happen anymore when games, online-based games die and then they just get completely deleted. That sucks. So I think that's all we have. There was quite a bit to talk about in terms of the state of the franchise, and hopefully we will continue to have more to talk about. For now, Chapter 32 is coming. For some reason, I feel like 33 is a big milestone, 3-3, to have. I always check. Let me check where we're at in the Attack on Titan comparison. So that's always my my comparison is where was Attack on Titan at this chapter number? Okay, so we are rapidly nearing the end in terms of Attack on Titan of the female Titan arc. So that's kind of the first big phase of that series. Ends in 2 chapters. Maybe it ends in chapter 30. Yes, it ends in chapter 33. Is called Wall of Attack on Titan. Yeah, and that's where season 1 of the anime ends. It's where sort of the first big arc of the manga ends. So that's interesting by way of comparison to where ZATCH Bell 2 is. Of where we'll be when we finish chapter 33. So maybe 33 will be a big milestone. Maybe I was right. But just very excited to see the Brazil adventure this coming chapter. Excited to see Jill Knows. Excited to see his power. Really cool to be focusing on new characters. And as long as we're doing so, maybe we're going to see Zara and Zelly and the gang again. And of course Mippy, who y'all wonder what's going on with him. But for now, I think we will leave it there. I'm probably going to get back to playing a little more Death Stranding 2. Glad I got to do this before the new chapter. I think I probably will stream the next chapter at a pretty normal time. Just because this chapter was late, I don't think that necessarily means the next chapter is going to be late. It'll probably be within a week from the chapter's release, as usual. So thanks to anyone who was in the chat. Thanks to anyone who watches this afterwards. I'm going to try to remember to post this one on Reddit, just so I can kind of get the word out again, because I don't remember if I've ever shared these on the Reddit. And if anyone leaves a comment who watches this in the future, I will respond. So thanks again to anyone who